Hello.
I think we're live. I hope we're live. Let's just make sure. But we're going to be talking today about something that I'm quite familiar with, and Victor isn't as much. But it's all
Yeah,
good because
tried my best to follow it for a while.
yeah. So we're going to be doing a little preview for WrestleMania this weekend.
WrestleMania
Yeah, WrestleMania. So this
for
is
them and
this is a sorry. Go on, go on. This is going to be
the
fun. I'm going to
ten
enjoy this one. It's going to be
the
a lot
ten
of
fans that will
there's going to be
actually
a
be doing
lot
that.
of explaining to do.
Yeah,
Yes. Sorry, go on.
I'll let you take the lead. It's just funny imagining.
No, no. I
Normally there's
want
like
you to
half a
ask
million people in
questions.
the stands,
Yeah.
and now there's what they. Yeah, do you want to start off with anything in particular, or
Yes. So
what are they
let's
doing
allude.
now in the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. Go on. Go on. Ask the question.
So what are they doing now? That's unprecedented, I guess, in the face of the coronavirus fears. How are they still conducting their shows?
So there was this really cool meme that I saw, which was basically well, it was a written meme. So it's basically coronavirus, punching Vince McMahon and saying, "Cancel it," and then Vince responds with no. And then coronavirus punches Vince again, and he says, "Cancel it." And he's like, and he spits out a tooth with like blood and stuff. And then coronavirus punches him again and says, "Cancel WrestleMania, damn it." And then the response is Vince is like, "Ha! WrestleMania is going to be 2 nights this year." So the response is, yeah. I mean, we're already in kind of uncertain times, but this is one of
Yeah.
those weird things where pro wrestling is still kind of continuing even without the live crowd. And because they have this performance center in Florida, which is kind of like their training facility, that's where they've been kind of shooting Raw and SmackDown. So obviously there's no crowd, and the kind of format of the show is like very different because it's like wrestling without the crowd it's very it's a surreal thing. Like they've done it in
There's
the
no
past.
feedback.
Yeah, there's no exactly. So when they're in the ring, like it's different from movies where if you're on set, you kind of you have your script and you have your lines and you kind of do as the director kind of directs you to do, and there's no on the fly stuff. You're very strict on kind of what your goal is out there. Whereas like in the ring, a lot of the time what made old school wrestlers really good was their feedback and kind of hearing the audience and kind of being able to respond to what they need to do next
Yeah.
in order to
It's like
engage a response. Yeah,
like theater. You're playing to the audience, and what you do when the audience isn't there.
exactly.
What
Yeah.
is what's Stone Cold Steve Austin doing? He
See,
often
that
plays
was
back and
very
forth.
interesting because they did a segment with Stone Cold on March the 16th, so 316 day, and they had him on there, and it goes, he did his typical like promo, and then he was like,
What?
"If you guys want to see me raise some hell, give me a hell yeah," and then it cuts to the camera. The camera cuts to the empty seats, and they made a comedic kind of thing out of it. So it was cool to see how they're having to be creative in different ways, but
I like how they're leaning into it.
I
So
mean,
might as
you
well
don't
make the
have a
most.
choice. You don't have a choice. I
Yeah,
mean, you've got to continue going. They're losing a lot of money, I would assume, on the gate, which is the amount that
yeah,
they would make off of, the butts in the seats, to use a wrestling
yeah.
term. Um,
The show must go on.
but yeah, they're continuing on. So they've been doing the past couple of like Raw and SmackDowns as kind of like in a weird way. So obviously, a majority or a huge chunk of the show is like highlights, or it's like they'll give you a full match from like last year's WrestleMania or a previous Royal Rumble match. So it's kind of like a clip show partially, and then they'll have like a
You call
couple of
it
matches,
call it a promo. Yeah,
and then they'll have a couple of matches with like some of the wrestlers who are really good technical workers, so they don't necessarily like need that, or guys that have kind of worked in like smaller audiences and stuff, and guys have kind of like worked their way up from wrestling in front of practically no one
yeah.
are the ones that are
That was
they're kind of using, yeah, in this situation.
that was going
So
to be one of my questions. Is can you tell as the audience, like, what's the obviously like the live audience, like
yeah,
as a viewer, how does it feel watching it? Is it obvious? But I guess if they're actively playing it up, for the,
if there's things they can do to play up, and if it's just because it literally becomes so focused on the in-ring action, so the guys that they use are really good at what they do. So if I was developing a guy that was just like fairly new to the business or whatever, I wouldn't put him out there because they wouldn't know how to
yeah,
handle that situation. So the guys that they are using, like a Daniel Bryan or Cesaro, these guys have been around like veterans. They're the only ones that are kind of getting that kind of opportunity, like guys that have worked in front of no one and have that experience. Because even John Cena, they brought him out to do a promo, and he goes, it was very strange doing a promo to an audience of none. Like,
I can imagine.
so it almost goes from a different kind of production, from being like live entertainment to more serialized or TV show, like Lucha Underground. But even then, in the set, they would have like an audience. So this is a very unique time we're going through. So
Yeah, it must suck to be a newbie, but I guess you have to rely on someone. You got to rely on the veterans. They know what they're doing, and you can do it even without an audience, apparently.
yeah, so it's gonna be. Sorry, go on.
Like, can you see them playing off each other more than before, or would you say it's about the same? Because they've always been pretty good at that.
It's like you can't tell. The only difference is like there's no reaction from the crowd, or there's not that kind of that force or that energy you feel,
Yeah.
from
They're not,
everything.
They're not going the sitcom route and having like canned laughter or responses. Just to
Now, I
play it
wouldn't
up.
even. That's a good idea. I
That'd be
mean, if
weird.
I wouldn't put it past myself if I was in charge. I'd be like, oh, let's see how this works, because they've done it before. Actually, now that you mention it, they've kind of tempered volumes in the past when they want to put over or kind of what's another way to explain put over. So when they want to make you cheer for someone, they've done things where if the crowd's kind of booing them, like a Roman Reigns is a guy that they want to stick down everyone's throat. So they've done this, I think, in WrestleMania's past, where they adjust the volume of the boos so it's not as bad to the live TV audience. So they've done it before. So to go off of what you were saying, yeah.
Interesting.
So what we're gonna do is I have like a kind of a mock-up card here on WWE 2K19, because that was the last good game that was made, So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start show, and yeah. So just to answer the question, yeah, this is one of the most unique WrestleManias probably in our lifetime, because for one, it's 2 nights, and secondly, it's like a totally different production from the record-breaking kind of like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, up to like 100,000 people attending, a certain venue. Yeah, masses of people,
I wonder how they're going to compensate for the lack of the. There's always a huge energy in those arenas. But without...
Yeah, it's going to be very different. It's going to be very. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be. It's strange. I don't know what to expect. But if I was to make a prediction about, not particularly the matches, but in terms of production, I think they should go with like more produced segments, like more like TV style. And one of the things, like a movie production, kind of do something like that. Because like one of the things that AEW, okay, so this is another promotion now, Victor. So there's another promotion that's come up recently that's got just as much money, or if not more money, than Vince McMahon, and they've kind of put together their own kind of promotion, and they're kind of dealing with the same difficulties right now. So obviously there's no crowd, but they own a part of the Jacksonville stadium, or they have like basically a facility or a closed set where they can operate, and they've continually been putting out shows every week too. But what they're doing is they're putting their kind of roster or wrestlers kind of in the crowd, so they're kind of doing things like betting on matches, and there's kind of some kind of interaction outside, or some kind of ambient noise, to kind of go along with the matches, which I think is a really smart. It feels better than having no one in the crowd.
Yeah, it's still a show, but at least they're playing it up and have that realistic element in it. And these people know what they're doing. It's got experts.
So yeah, I want you to ask questions, because this is going to be different, because it's kind of going to be me kind of explaining wrestling, and at the same time you going through the list and getting my predictions, and like it'll be different from what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, of course. So who's the first match? We got the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, The Miz and John Morrison, versus the Usos versus the New Day. Triple threat ladder match.
Right. So for some of them, like I'll give my predictions in terms of who I think's gonna win or who I think should win, and other ones I'm just gonna kind of go into it a bit more. But before we go into the first one, sorry to cut you off. The card that you have was as of the 30th of March. So yesterday I caught up with Raw, and they actually added 2 more matches to this kind of a card.
Oh, interesting.
And obviously I don't know what's happening on what day, so we're not going to go into like what matches are on what day. We're just going to go through the matches. But the 2 that I quickly want to just touch on that I didn't actually have as part of the card that I sent you. Are two matches I don't really care about anyway. So let's just quickly go
fair
over
enough.
them. So one of them is Otis versus Ziggler. So
Otis who, sorry.
Otis is a really chubby guy that can do the worm. You know the worm, the dance move.
Oh, yeah.
So he can kind of do the wham, and he's been in this kind of infatuation stage with this woman. Her name is Mandy Rose, and she's a beautiful blonde. And they were building this story where he kind of gets to like her, and then she ends up going out with Dolph Ziggler, and it's like your typical like love triangle kind of thing. And I don't care about it at all. So I'm just gonna go with Dolph Ziggler because I think. Let me just write down my predictions.
It's a good way
I
to
think
build up
Otis
drama,
is gonna win, but I want Ziggler to win because I don't like Otis. I think he's overrated. I think everyone loves him, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
And another thing to mention is I've become more of a casual fan, but I still feel like I know enough to kind of
Still
put
pay
some weight
attention.
on my opinion. You know what I mean? To slang
And that's a
my
big deal because
Yeah.
wrestling has been a big part of your life for as long as I've known you, and probably even before then.
Oh, so it really
what?
says something now. Like I still watch New Japan and I watch like AEW, but I just haven't been following WWE as often. But obviously it's WrestleMania. Like everyone's watching. Even people that don't watch wrestling are, invested in
Oh, yeah.
WrestleMania, and this is going to be one of those unique ones.
Would you agree with me saying it's the biggest wrestling event of the year at this point, anyway? That might
For
change
the
in the future.
WWE, yeah, but the cool thing now is like they've got, New Japan has got Wrestle Kingdom, and there are like so many, there's so much, or there was before this whole incident, with COVID-19, there were so many options. There will be again, but
Yeah.
yeah, in terms
It's
of the
up and
granddaddy,
comers.
like this is WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
The other match I just want to touch on is for the women's tag titles, and the reason I don't care about it is because I think like it just kind of came out of nowhere, which is going to be the case with some of these matches that we go through anyway. But this is one of those ones where they've got Asuka and Kairi Sane. So they are two Japanese female wrestlers taking on Alexa Bliss, who's an American female wrestler, and her tag team partner is Nikki Cross. And I believe she is from Scotland, I think. I could be wrong.
Scotland. Lovely.
Yeah, so one of your tribe members. So again, I don't know who's gonna win. I would say Asuka and Kairi Sane to retain. Mainly because I like how. Well, I think Asuka's really underrated at the moment. They don't use her well enough, but
How long has she been in the WWE itself,
a
rather
couple
than
of
say the?
years. A couple of
Okay.
years, yeah. But she's a veteran. Like she can do things that she's probably one of the top female athletes that they have, but they just don't use her as well for some reason, and that's often the case. At the moment, I think their roster is so stacked, but some of the issue comes with like them not being able to use their guys very well. I mean, their roster is stacked. They've got like world
Yeah,
class athletes. It's just they've got very piss poor level of direction from whoever's got the pen and pencil in their hands.
that's a shame. Hope that changes. Did
Okay.
Asuka come over from the Eastern wrestling side of things, or has she always
Yeah,
been?
so she was wrestling in Japan, I think, for many years
Okay.
before. And then she kind of caught someone's attention here, and then they brought her over. She was undefeated for a very long period of time, and it was a really good time to be watching her. Like she was really being pushed to the moon, and then eventually she would lose. I believe it was two WrestleManias ago now to Charlotte Flair, because Charlotte Flair, we'll get to her. Actually, we won't get to her because no, we will because it's on the card. Yeah. But I don't know. I get the feeling that Charlotte Flair's a bit of a politician when it comes to her career.
Yeah.
But
I guess that's smart, but it doesn't really endear them to the fans so much.
I don't know about the fans, but not to me. Like
Yeah.
it's just too many. Yeah, yeah. We'll get to it. We'll get to her. We'll get to her
Okay.
in a sec. But yeah, that was the kind of two matches that weren't on the card. But very much like this whole COVID situation, like the card I think has been changing day by day because obviously not everyone can work,
You
or
gotta
some
adapt.
people
Absolutely.
have like autoimmune issues, and there's
Yeah.
it's very
Actually,
uncertain. Sorry, go on.
of course, that is a good question. Have any well-known wrestlers or anyone like been incapacitated because of COVID-19 that you know
Okay,
of?
so we'll kind of get to. Well, I'll definitely go into that because there are one or two matches I'm going to touch
Okay.
on that have
And
something to
I
do
look
with
forward
that.
to hearing about it.
Yeah. So now we can get onto the card. Yeah. So we can get to
triple threat ladder match.
So Miz and Morrison, the Usos, and the New Day. I think it's going to be a really good match. I mean, this whole card on paper looks really good.
It's good
Miz and Miz and Morrison just won the championship not too long ago, so I would hope that they retain the championship. So I'm going to go with Miz and Morrison for that one. The Usos and the New Day, like, they could be tag team champions at any time. All three of these teams are freaking amazing. Are you familiar with the Usos or the New Day?
I am. I think we watched one of the matches together. That was one of the final.
Oh, okay, nice. So you're not so far behind.
Yeah, I recognize all these names at least.
Okay, well, when you get to some that you don't, I'll kind of explain who they are and why they're in the position they're in. But yeah, I'm going to go with Miz and Morrison.
Sounds good. Deserve it. How about Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental Championship? Who currently retains?
So I think so Sami Zayn won the championship not too long ago, but he's been in the WWE for a very long time. He's worked with so many different wrestlers, and he's had some phenomenal matches. And I think he's gonna have. So they're doing this whole thing where he's a villain at the moment, or he's a heel, and he's got Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura with him. And they're kind of like, I guess, protecting him. But the three of them combined, I think, beat Braun Strowman for like the title. Like it was a handicap match or something. And Sami Zayn did practically nothing in the match and then pinned Braun Strowman, and kind of like that got him a lot of heat because people were complaining, and that's kind of the kind of it feeds into the whole thing about him being a heel. He didn't do anything, and then he kind of wins the championship off of the other two guys, and yeah, it's really good heel work. Like at the end of the day, that kind of stuff will get you hated. But from a kind of a perspective of like how long he's been in the WWE and how much he's put in, like he deserves to have a championship because, again, he's had like some crazy matches.
Yeah. And
this is actually his first time ever winning a championship in I don't know how many years. So, yeah, there is the argument that, all right, he shouldn't be champion, but I think that's more of a kind of a fan-based kind of a view where it's like, oh, he's the bad guy and he shouldn't be champion. But in terms of his career, like, I think this guy deserves to be Intercontinental Champion. He's a very good promo guy, I think. I think he's not properly utilized. He kind of is now. But I just think it's a case of like if they let him just run with it, I would put the world title on this guy. Like I think there's a good chance in the future that this guy could be a future like world champion. And Daniel Bryan. He's a mainstay guy. There's nothing that can a loss here is not going to affect him adversely. I mean he's made it. You know what I mean? Like Daniel Bryan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the whole goal here is to kind of put Sami Zayn over and kind of give him a bit of a boost because obviously he's not even been champion for very long. So I'm going to go with Sami Zayn.
Ooh. I look forward to it.
That is who I think is going to win, and because sometimes when we make these predictions, we kind of have who we want to win and who we think is going to win. In both cases for this match, I think it should be Sami Zayn.
Interesting. You've been around long enough to kind of know the ins and outs of wrestling. So
yeah, as a fan, there's what I want, and then there's obviously what would make sense, in terms of like what would they do or what is their goal here.
I feel like you should be writing the cards at some point.
I would love to, just be given the pencil for like one show. I would love it, just to play around.
I would love to see that as well. Who do you think is going to win between Elias and King Corbin?
I just realized this whole time we've been talking, I actually haven't started the card, so we're going to start the card on here. So the first, as I would book it, I would put Roman Reigns and Goldberg in the opening match because this is not necessarily going to be something people want to see, but it's something that I think should go on first to just kind of get out of the way. Elias versus King Corbin, I couldn't care less.
Let's move right along then.
No, I'll give a prediction. I think it should be. I think it'll be King Corbin because I don't see them building Elias. So we'll go with King Corbin.
The following contest is scheduled for
I think it could go either way because neither of them really matter, or like you said, it's going to be King Corbin just because they want to build him up more.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Do you think it could go either way because it's not a big deal, it's not a huge match, or it's
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, the only good thing that's come out of this is Xavier Woods. If you go to his Twitter, he found a kind of I guess it's a meme, but it's a video of like King Corbin kind of hitting Elias with like a scepter off of a stage, and he goes falling down and crashing to the area below, and it's just basically a recreation of the Mortal Kombat fatality. Like that was the best thing to come out of this whole thing, in my opinion.
nice. Fatality.
Yeah.
Be fun to see.
Yeah.
Who's next? We got Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley.
Okay, so Aleister Black is a really good wrestler again. They kind of, I don't know what they're yo-yoing his push from. Do you know what I mean by push?
No, explain that. What does that mean?
Okay, yeah. So ask questions. So a push is like when they're giving someone some momentum and they're stringing together some victories, or they're kind of being pushed to be a bigger star. If that makes sense.
Okay. So when they're more up and coming, they're trying to build them up for a championship, maybe, or just make them a bigger name.
So
in general.
they'll be getting a push towards a championship or a certain angle or a particular storyline.
Okay.
So with Aleister Black, I feel like they've been kind of hot and cold.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Bobby Lashley. I don't know what's going on with him. He's like another powerhouse guy, and they've got him. I don't even want to get into it. He's got a manager at the moment, or his lover, or whatever you want to call it. It's this blonde Russian girl named Lana, right? And she's actually married to this other guy called Rusev. And for the longest time, they were just using Rusev and Lashley to have this feud, because Lana's kind of. I don't even know. It just. This is again bad booking in terms of.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean,
bad creative decisions.
Who else is getting a good push right now that you actually agree with and think, oh, this guy deserves it? You said Sami Zayn deserves the championship right now. Who else is getting a good
He deserves
push?
to keep what he has, yeah, and I think he could do a lot more. Who do I think is getting a push, or who do I think should be getting a push?
First, who's getting a push currently and who should be getting a push that isn't?
That's a good question. It's hard to answer that at the moment. We'll come back to that. I'll remember that one. That's a good question. So Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley, like, I am gonna go with. I don't even know what the goal is here. Like, I don't know. Let's just go with. Let's go with Aleister Black.
Okay.
Aleister Black, by the way,
bets on this?
is. I'm not placing any bets on this.
Have you ever placed any bets?
No, that would be illegal. Why would I do that?
I mean, just a friendly bet.
Not really. Now that you mention it, no, not really.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, you were saying. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm done with King Corbin and Elias. I don't really care for, and it's the same with Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley.
Okay. We'll move on to something more interesting then. The Raw Tag Team Champions, Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza. I hope I said this right.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned, if anyone was kind of being affected by this whole COVID situation, and this is one of those matches where I think up until, I watched Raw yesterday, so I found out that it's actually going to be the Street Profits who are the champions versus Angel Garza and this other guy called Austin Theory, and I have no idea who Austin Theory is. Apparently he's 22 years old, and they've kind of put him into the match replacing Andrade, because Andrade's been written off as having like an injury.
Interesting.
So I don't know what the situation is there.
Yeah, it could be an injury, but if you didn't, like, what was his recent match like? Did it look like he got injured, or?
I have no idea. I mean, there was nothing, I think, that happened.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Hold on, just give me a moment. They're just doing the introductions for Goldberg versus Roman Reigns in the simulation.
Lovely. Pay attention.
No, it's just when the announcer stops talking, we can continue talking. Let's just use this time to have a look at chat. Okay, so the match has started between Goldberg and Reigns, so we're just going to let it play out. I'm just checking the chat. Jazz2B88 fact. First, New Japan had a first 2-night show, and now WrestleMania 36 is a 2-night show. 3-way SmackDown tag title match. I predict the Usos to win the SmackDown titles. I mean, that's a safe bet. I don't think there's any team that doesn't have what it takes to win. Otis versus Dolph Ziggler with Mandy Rose. Otis to win and get the girl. I didn't know that the girl was on the line. Okay, see, things are changing, Victor, even as we're doing this.
Interesting.
It's kind of weird, isn't it, in 2020 to have a girl on the line? I fight for her honor.
What is this, the 1980s or the 1800s? It's a duel for the ladies' favor.
Yeah, it's weird, you know. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's interesting that that's the case.
Maybe they're looking to build up some controversy over it. It's always good for the business.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. What else is going on? Is Legendary... Someone just talking about their experience playing the game. Yeah, anyway, we can continue what we're talking about. So,
Next match then?
Again, the Street Profits haven't been tag team champions for very long. It's probably been a couple of weeks, I think.
Street Profits.
I'm not sure.
Who's that? Who's the made up? Who makes up the Street Profits?
So that's a good question because they're again, I think they're fairly new.
Okay.
So
this entire match is made up of people I'm not aware of.
Okay, so I will have to look their names up.
We'll come back to that.
No, I do know it, but I don't want to get it wrong. I know it's Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. Yeah, there we go. So there's these two guys that came up from the NXT system, so the WWE's like own developmental system. And yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about them. I know that they really got popular with the crowd, I think, in like NXT, and then they got brought over onto Raw, and they were given more mic time in the back, so they were, you know, cutting promos and getting the audience kind of hyped up and stuff. And yeah, they recently won the Tag Team Championship by beating, I think, Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. So now your next question is, who's Buddy Murphy? And the answer is, I don't know.
Where's Buddy Murphy?
No, I mean, I know who he is. It's just like he just kind of came up out of nowhere. And now he's like, he's
like a lot of those.
Seth Rollins and yeah, there's a lot of
newbies, which is good.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that a lot of them probably, like you said, won't get to be the main star. But then putting the veterans out there.
He's a support character for the moment. Buddy Murphy is a support character for Seth Rollins. But yeah, they were tag team champions, and the Street Profits beat them.
It's good for them.
So again, it hasn't been very long that they've been champions. So I would assume they would retain, but and the other thing being that, you know, they just threw Austin Theory into this match. Like, imagine being 22 years old and then they're like, you know what, you're going to be in WrestleMania. Like, what? How?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a good break for him.
He might be the youngest guy to ever perform at WrestleMania. Like, I'm
Maybe
saying WrestleMania with air quotes.
Maybe he injured the other guy to get in the match.
Maybe. That'd be a good story. That'd be a good story.
The drama. All right, who have we got next? Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins.
Before we move on to that one,
Rewind.
I think Angel Garza and Austin Theory are not going to win the tag team titles. I think Street Profits are going to retain, and I think just because they haven't been champions for very long, and the second thing is obviously Austin Theory just got thrown into this match, so as a challenger, so I don't think they're going to move those titles anywhere.
Yeah.
And,
do you think the chemistry between them won't be good enough to win in the match?
I mean, I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But Angel Garza, I think, is one to look out for. Because I haven't seen very many of his matches. Probably less than 10. I've seen less than 10 Angel Garza matches. But there's something about this guy that reminds me of Eddie Guerrero. Like a younger Eddie Guerrero. Like, he's got a lot of, like, natural charisma, like, on screen. And I think he's one to look out for. Sorry.
Do you think he... I mean, probably like a lot of us grew up watching Eddie Guerrero. Do you think he's a local hero, or is it just coincidence?
Could be. I think that's the thing, though. He's a lot of people's hero, including Sasha Banks. But yeah, no, he reminds me of a young Eddie Guerrero, and like time will tell, you know, whether or not he kind of. But
I look forward to seeing how he does.
I'm looking forward to seeing how Angel Garza's progress. Out of these 4 guys, yeah, I'm more interested in how he kind of progresses. But yeah, Street Profits are going to retain.
Okay, look forward to it. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins. Who's going to win?
Again, this is another one that could go either way because they're both like really, you know, they're kind of established names.
Yeah, they're veterans.
And the story here has kind of been...
yeah, what's at stake here? It just seems like a normal match.
It is, yes. As far as I know, it's just a regular singles match, but it's like a feud that's kind of been building over time. And Kevin Owens is the babyface, or the good guy. Seth Rollins is the heel. And he's doing this whole thing where he's like... he's going with like a kind of a Messiah gimmick, so he's like the Monday Night Messiah, and he kind of he's doing this whole kind of a cult type thing. And Kevin Owens is just Kevin Owens. He's been using the Stone Cold Stunner as a finisher as of late, as a homage to Steve Austin.
Yep. Legend.
And yeah, I mean, the last promo they did was about Seth Rollins saying that, you know, he's had like so many WrestleMania moments, and you know, Kevin Owens has never had a WrestleMania moment, and you know, Seth Rollins says that, you know, Kevin Owens couldn't beat him on his worst day, and WrestleMania is by far like not his worst day. Promos have been very good, you know, they're both very skilled, like when it comes to building up momentum towards the match. Again, this could go either way. I'd like to see Kevin Owens win though, because I think he deserves. I think he deserves the win, or he deserves like a WrestleMania moment. Because, I mean, unless I'm overlooking something, I don't recall any like WrestleMania moments that come to mind straight away when I think of like Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Aside from
I know I haven't watched as many as yours, but
yeah,
hopefully. This could be the next best thing for him.
So just to quickly aside, Roman Reigns has defeated Goldberg for the Universal Championship in the simulation.
Is that realistic?
So,
Goldberg is quite the powerhouse.
I mean, if I was, you know, the one with the pencil in my hands, definitely not. Like, people were so pissed when Goldberg became Universal Champion because he's like 50-something. He's 50 plus. Let's see, maybe he's 53.
He doesn't look it.
Goldberg. Let's type in... Yeah, he's 53 years old, and he defeated the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, right, to win the Universal Championship not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
And people were pissed. They were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe like this old guy beat, you know, the guy that they were pushing. It was Bray Wyatt. He had this whole Fiend character, and you know, he was very much beloved, let's say, by the WWE universe. And all of a sudden, they kind of have Goldberg, you know, do a random like comeback for this Saudi show.
Yeah, it was a bit weird.
It was kind of weird, yeah, because I wasn't expecting Goldberg to win either. But when he did win and he beat Bray Wyatt, I was jumping up and down for joy. I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" Like it's like you're one of your childhood, like the wrestlers you watch from childhood, and you kind of see him winning, and you know, it's just the mark in me, it's just the fan in me that was just kind of like overly excited about Goldberg winning, because obviously, you know, there was no chance they were gonna, you know, have him win the title. But you know, I thought it was great. I thought it was great. A lot of people, I'm in the minority, like 99% of people, 90% of people probably wanted Bray Wyatt to win, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And then Goldberg beat him for the championship, and now that simulation has ended with Goldberg losing the title to Roman Reigns, which is probably what will happen, and we're going into now, I think,
as it should have been.
Edge versus Randy Orton in a last man standing match, which we'll talk about again in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are we talking about? Kevin Owens.
We have the NXT. Yeah, we have the NXT Women's Championship Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. I think you talked about it before.
Oh no, I was gonna say it with Charlotte Flair. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's been times where she's kind of politicked her way to where she is. We're just gonna pause to take a sip of tea while the announcer announces these people and interrupts our conversation.
I'd say we're about halfway through the card,
Yeah.
but we've got a lot more interesting things coming up. This is all the introduction matches.
Should I skip Randy Orton's entrance?
Might as well.
It looks so interesting seeing it in the NXT arena. Like, there's gonna be even less people in the actual event. Like, there's at least people in the crowd here.
Yeah. They should just play, when it happens to WWE, they should just play it from the game, use the game's audiences in the background.
Do you know what? It's funny you mentioned that because I think there's been some sports, I don't know if it's like basketball or baseball, but instead of having the playoff games, they were just kind of, they were simulating the games on the video game.
Yeah. See, that's not a bad idea.
So, yeah. Okay, so let's move on. NXT Women's Championship, that's what we were on. Yeah, so Rhea Ripley is the current NXT Women's Champion. NXT for the longest time was considered a developmental brand. So obviously you know about Raw and SmackDown, right?
Yeah.
They're the two main brands, and then they had NXT where you kind of hone your craft a bit and then you get moved up to the main roster. Now, going back to the whole AEW thing, which is the other promotion, they have their weekly TV show on Wednesday nights now, and obviously when they started to do their kind of weekly, wrestling show, I think the WWE decided to turn NXT into less of a developmental brand and more of a full-fledged brand, and they decided, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna go on at the same time as AEW. So they kind of started this kind of I hate the term Wednesday Night War because I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
Because back in the day we had like Raw and Nitro, so WCW and WWE putting out product at the same time, where in those, in the late 90s, you had to make a choice on what you were going to watch. Like, you're flicking through the channels, you're either watching one thing or the other. The reason why I don't consider this Wednesday Night War is because you can easily watch one thing and like have the other show recorded for later on, or you can live stream one and then kind of catch the replay of the other, or whatever the case is. I don't think that people are making a decision between one or the other.
Yeah.
Because we have the capability. Hardly ever do we, like the way we consume entertainment is a lot more dynamic in terms of, even timing, than it was like back then, like in the late 90s, where it's kind of like, oh guys, let's all sit around the TV and watch, wrestling together.
Yeah, it's far more options these days.
Yeah, I mean, even when you're a kid, you remember like everyone like gathering around the TV at a certain time because a certain show was on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this whole kind of dynamic change in how we consume wrestling. Like, it's always available to us. If we can't watch it live, it's there the next day. So that's why I don't believe in this whole Wednesday Night War thing.
That's fair. It doesn't sound right either.
Yeah, I mean, but for whatever reason, they decided, okay, we're going to have our show NXT on at the same time as AEW's Dynamite, which is the name of their show.
Okay.
And yeah, that's when NXT became kind of a full-fledged third brand, and Rhea Ripley is currently the NXT Women's Champion.
Right.
So Charlotte Flair is going to be challenging her, and the reason she's challenging her is because she won the Women's Royal Rumble. Yes, Victor, you heard me right. Now there's a Women's Royal Rumble, for the past few years. Yeah.
What's the difference?
So obviously it's all women, right? Like, so.
Yeah. I guess that they didn't used to have that many women on stuff to make an entire Royal Rumble, and they wanted to celebrate that, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, it's very different from, like, say, even 10 years ago when it was literally the men's Royal Rumble alone. And they maybe had, like, someone like a Chyna or a Beth Phoenix, kind of appear as a kind of a novelty or a spectacle in the men's Rumble. But now there's enough women for them to kind of put together their own kind of Royal Rumble, which is cool.
Yeah.
And Asuka, you know, she won the first ever women's Royal Rumble, which was something that made me very happy.
That's a good way to put someone over, to give them a push.
Yeah, definitely, because it's the same rules apply. So whenever you win the Royal Rumble, you kind of go into you get to choose which champion you want to face at WrestleMania. What I wasn't so happy about was how Charlotte Flair actually won this Royal Rumble, because I really thought Shayna Baszler, who's going to be challenging Becky Lynch, we'll talk about soon, should have won the Royal Rumble.
We are getting a bit off topic now.
How
Sorry
so?
to cut you off in full swing. It's just we do have a lot more to get on with, and this is going. I know you're going to bring it back around again. Just give you a bit of a nudge. Continue.
Well, I was just explaining why I don't think how we got here to Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte.
No, that's fair.
So Charlotte won the Royal Rumble, and she gets to choose whichever champion she wants to face. And for the first time, you know, the NXT Women's Champion is kind of a choice. So she went and she chose Rhea Ripley to face at WrestleMania, instead of, which is, you know, typically would be the Raw or the SmackDown Women's Champion. So for the first time ever, the NXT Championship, Women's Championship, will be defended at WrestleMania. So again,
fantastic.
You know, something new. And I think Rhea Ripley should win, because I think Charlotte Flair is a mainstay name. Like, again, she could very well politic her way into winning this as well. But I think Rhea Ripley should be coming out victorious.
Do they still call them divas, or is that considered offensive these days?
So that whole, so there was a whole period of time where they kind of changed them from divas to just WWE superstars, to kind of give them kind of level terminology in terms of level footing, in terms of terminology with the men.
Okay, glad to hear it. I imagine a lot of people are happy about that. How do you feel?
I feel like we should move on to the next match.
Right, so we have a large one here. We got a 5-way elimination match, fatal 5-way, sorry. The women's SmackDown.
Yeah, we have a lot more
champion.
women's wrestling to discuss, man. We'll get to it.
So we have Bayley versus Sasha Banks versus Lacey Evans versus Tamina versus Naomi. Fatal 5-way elimination match.
Again, I think this match was thrown together. I don't really care for it, because I think it's just there for the sake of being there. Which also reminds me that due to the whole COVID-19 thing, there is actually no Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So every year there's like a match where there's like a Battle Royal. But I'm guessing obviously the logistics of it, you know, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, this has got 5 of the SmackDown women on there. I think either Bayley will retain, or Lacey Evans will win the championship. But I think, again, it was thrown together very quickly, and I don't really care much for it. So I'll just go with Bayley. Yeah.
Okay. And then another women's match right after this. We have the Raw Women's Champion between Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, so you sound very confused. Yeah, times have changed, man. There's 3 matches.
Yeah, there used to be maybe 1 or 2
there used
matches.
To be that whole Divas era was basically a toilet break. Like, you know, if there's a Divas match on, like you'll go and you'll take a break or whatever, and you know, you wouldn't really care for the actual wrestling. Whereas things are kind of changed now. So yeah, we've got 3, you know, women's champions, and in the third match we've got Shayna Baszler. She's basically been a legit like MMA fighter. Good friends with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I was going to mention. Was she on WWE at all recently?
Who's that?
Or like Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, so there was she did a stretch of about a year, where she kind of went undefeated. She captured the Raw Women's Championship. And then she lost it to Becky Lynch in a triple threat match with, again, Charlotte. Obviously, she's going to be there. Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. And I think that was her first and only loss, if I'm not wrong. And that was to Becky Lynch. Roster? Ronda Rousey, no. After that match at WrestleMania, lost, I I believe it was last year. Yeah. She's basically taken time away because she wanted to start a family and do these other things.
Okay, good for her.
So she's kind of taken
stretch.
time away. Yeah. So she had a good stretch of a year. Kind of mixed reactions from the audience, from the WWE universe. But yeah, now we find the following year, like Shayna Baszler, her protege. How do you pronounce that word? Protege is in a match against Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is champ. So Becky Lynch is kind of using the whole, you want to step out of Ronda's shadow thing, but you have to defeat me and blah blah. I actually firmly want Shayna Baszler to win this match.
Okay. Do you think she will?
She should have won the Royal Rumble. It's kind of a cool thing they did. So instead of I think she will. Yeah, I think she should. But yeah, I mean Shayna Baszler was in line to kind of win the Rumble because she was the last person in the match with Charlotte Flair, and then Charlotte Flair won. And then instead of Charlotte Flair challenging one of the top 2 brands, she went and chose the NXT champion. So then that kind of allowed Shayna Baszler to start this feud with Becky Lynch. So yeah, I'm going with Shayna Baszler because I think she's a legitimate, she's a legit, you could believe that she'd be the champion, and she'd be the champion for a long time.
Yeah, and it's kind of her turn, would you say?
It's her time, I think so. Yeah, I don't know about her turn. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Shayna Baszler. I was really impressed with her feud with Kairi Sane. So the women's tag champ that we talked about first. Kairi Sane was a really smaller opponent for Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler's a badass. She could probably kick the shit out of some men. The men's roster. So for her to feud with Kairi Sane, who's a really skinny, innocent, small, timid kind of character, it made it for a good story, And they had some really good matches. So since those past, I think it's been a year, almost 2 years now, that I've been seeing kind of Shayna Baszler. I think it's her time. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wish her the best. I like the sound of it. You ready to move on?
Yep.
I think
for some reason, Randy Orton and Edge, they just stopped competing with each other, so I just kind of skipped to the next match.
Oh, funnily enough, that's who we have next.
Yeah, okay.
Randy Orton versus Edge for the last man standing match.
I don't know why. I get the feeling that after what we just saw, it might be Randy Orton. That's the last man standing.
Very prophetic.
This has been the only actual storyline that I felt was WrestleMania worthy, and it's just a shame that it's not going to be in front of 70, 80, 90,000 people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could reach more than that if at home, but it is a shame that they won't have the audience that they probably deserve, like you said.
I mean, I think
these guys got way back.
So this is really a legacy storyline because they've been building this whole thing about how Edge and Randy Orton were rated RKO back in the day. And how, Randy Orton went through some hardship personally, and he had his demons, and, he was in a hole that he dug himself by, being self-destructive. And, having his, demons, that's what they call drug issues in wrestling, demons.
Oh, yeah, yep. It's cold.
He found himself in a hole, and one of the only people that actually pulled him out of the hole was Edge. And this whole kind of a brotherhood story.
Are they on good terms, or is it a face-heel kind of deal right now?
So right now, Edge is the babyface, and Randy Orton is the heel, because Edge has been away from wrestling for about 9 years.
Wow.
Because he was medically disqualified from ever competing again after his neck surgery. So he'd essentially retired.
Okay.
So this year at the Royal Rumble, I think it was at number 26, or in the late 20s, you hear his theme music come on, and it literally just it was the most shocking thing to see him walk out there. It was so emotional, and you couldn't believe it. You were like, what the fuck is going on? It was such a moment. That was a moment.
That sounds exciting.
So he talks about coming back and rehabbing for 9 years to be able to kind of end his career on his own terms.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of juice in this storyline, man. There's a lot of emotions. It feels like a big fight feel. Sorry, go on.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I was saying. They're just saving the big guns. It feels like.
Yeah. So
Will this be Edge's last big match or his last WrestleMania, do you think?
This is the thing. If it is, I think he should win.
Yeah.
But then again, there's a good argument to be made that he should not win. But I want Edge to win, but I think it could go either way. Like there's no I think the winners are us being able to kind of see the story develop.
Yeah.
The way it has, and
it's going to be a great show regardless.
I think with Edge,
Introducing the challenger.
when he returned at the Rumble, like Randy Orton was in the ring, and there was a moment that they had where they kind of look at each other, and like you kind of realize like the history between them, you know, because like I don't know, you can't even put it into words. It's just exciting stuff. And then the next night on Raw, Randy Orton kind of suggests that they, you know, form Raid RKO again, and then he RKO's him. So he grabs a steel chair and he kind of smacks him in the head with it. He hits him with a concerto, and like Edge is, you know, off TV now for like a month. And then they start building the storyline about why Randy Orton did what he did, and you know, it's just a shame this is not going to be in front of, like, you know, that it's not going to have that same energy.
Yeah, 2020 WrestleMania.
Yeah, so this was kind of one of the points where, you know, I was kind of thinking it'll be disappointing, but again, they're two veterans, so I'm pretty sure they'll be able to like handle the situation.
Yeah, it's as good as it can be under the circumstances.
Yeah, under the circumstances, yeah.
Moving on, we have two more big names. We have John Cena versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt.
Okay, interesting. I'm just looking at the chat. Apparently Becky Lynch looks creepy in 2K19. 'Cause at the moment we've got Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler playing in the background. Aaliyah says, yo, what's up? Universal Championship? More like Blue Universal Championship. Okay, so let me just explain that really quickly. So the strap, because they moved the championship to SmackDown, now the actual leather strap is blue. So
I see.
It's an interesting aesthetic for the title. So you were saying, yeah, John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, in a apparently it's a Firefly Funhouse match. So I think this is going to be one of those segments that they produce. You know, it should be like a little TV, you know, a B horror movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What's a Firefly Funhouse match?
Mate, I have no idea. I have no idea. It's just the name of a thing that we have to look forward to. That it could be creative genius, or it could just be really bad.
I see. Something new, at least.
This is not going to be actually the first time that John Cena and Bray Wyatt have had a match. The last time they had a match against each other was 6 years ago in 2014 at WrestleMania 30, which was a milestone WrestleMania, and I was there for that one.
Oh yeah.
So I got to see. It was fucking amazing, man. What a night that was. We saw the Undertaker like finally lose at WrestleMania. Like it was insane. That WrestleMania was something special. Yeah, it was special. But on that night, it was John Cena actually that beat Bray Wyatt. So one of the things that they're using for fuel for this feud, for this storyline, is this whole new Fiend character, which is really popular, you know, amongst the WWE universe. Yeah, it was kind of created not too long ago, I'd say within the past year, and now Bray Wyatt's trying to tell the story of that, you know, that loss to John Cena affecting him to the point where he needed to create something beyond himself, like a persona, to, you know, evolve, I guess. And John Cena, on the other hand, is actually posting really cool Instagram pictures of Bray Wyatt in like high school, and really dumb pictures of Bray Wyatt. just these little things, just to poke at him, which are kind of cool that you can see on John Cena's Instagram.
Yeah.
Just fat pictures of Bray Wyatt and stuff. Like, it's really cool.
Wrestling history right there.
Yeah. So for this one, I think one of the other things, just to go really quickly into how this kind of came about, was John Cena came out on a SmackDown and said that he would no longer, or he would kind of be taking a step away from the WWE. So he'd be, you know, allowing the guys that are working, you know, their asses off day in and day out to to take a spot, and he goes, they've earned their spot. I don't want to be taking away anyone else's spot. And then Bray Wyatt comes out and he points to the WrestleMania sign and his Fiend mask and gimmick and stuff. Have you seen the Fiend, by the way? You know what he looks like?
I haven't. I'd love to. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, you can Google that. It's quite an interesting gimmick. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Very horror themed.
Yeah, he likes his freaky stuff. I kind of half imagine him. And when he first introduced, I half expected to see him in Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, he looks like a character that could be in one of these in the house in Resident Evil 7. That's a game that I still haven't played yet.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ! I just saw the mask.
Oh yeah. So that reaction was appropriate, because it's really shocking stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
So I mean, if things go as they should, then John Cena will kind of do the right thing and do the JOB for Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt will kind of avenge his loss, I guess, at WrestleMania to John Cena, and it would just make sense to kind of give the momentum to the guy who's going to be around longer, I suppose. Cena's kind of winding down his career.
Yeah.
So
got the acting career going quite well.
Yeah, when is this film coming out with him and Jackie Chan? So there's this film they've been working on apparently for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's John Cena and Jackie Chan. Like, I would love to see that. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe it's
me
already
too.
come out, or maybe I missed it or something. But as far as I know, it's not been out yet.
Any idea what the name is?
I have no idea.
No worries, I'll look it up.
Probably look up.
Who we have next? So John Cena, you're saying would do the job, as you say. What does that mean specifically?
I don't want to go too much behind the curtain, but like he'll do the honors, He'll take
Take it for the team.
fall, basically. Like it just makes good sense, to kind of like I was saying, to put Bray Wyatt on. So going over is the opposite of doing the job. So okay, I'm just gonna give you a quick little terminology, wrestling terminology there. So Bray Wyatt to go over on John Cena, yeah.
Okay. Doing someone a professional favor, it says.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's basically what it is. Doing a professional courtesy.
Okay. And just to go back, it's called Project Extraction with an X, not an EX. It was initial release last year, but it said it's expected to release this year, but who knows what'll happen with everything going on. So,
yeah.
Might just be delayed. Who do we have next? We have two legends here. We have The Undertaker versus AJ Styles.
Yeah, this is another one that it's just I'm just you know what? It should have been in front of people, but yeah, because of the I mean, it sucks, man. It sucks. But after they kind of found out it was gonna have no audience participation, let's say, they kind of changed it to AJ challenging The Undertaker in a boneyard match. So again, to answer your question before you ask it, I have no idea what that is. But if
I guess there'll be a lot of surprises at this event.
I think if I was to make a guesstimate, I'd say again it's another like kind of a pre-produced segment, or like something that's more like horror movie style in terms of a B horror movie. I don't know. I really don't know. This is the most uncertain I've ever been about WrestleMania. Like, I have no idea what boneyard match is. Maybe they just bone each other for it. Like, I don't know if I should say that, or I can't say that. I don't know what boneyard match is.
Welcome to the yard of boning.
But,
hopefully it's something
good.
good.
This is a shame. This should be in front of thousands of people. AJ Styles, I think, will defeat The Undertaker.
Again at WrestleMania. Oh, it's not been his time.
So The Undertaker, since that WrestleMania 30 where he first lost to Brock Lesnar, he's also lost to Roman Reigns. I believe he's had 2 losses.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
It was so long with the undefeated streak, and then suddenly everyone's beating him at WrestleMania.
Yeah, well, so far he's lost twice. I would love to see AJ Styles defeat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. But, I don't know, there's a part of my brain that's like, it doesn't really count, Because it's going to be a boneyard match, whatever that is, and on top of that, there's going to be no one there to see it.
So there's no titles or anything here. It's just
No, this isn't a title
gimmick
match. No. This is
What's the title for? Yeah, it's just it's just to see two legends going at it in a new match, boneyard match.
I think the boneyard match was put together because they decided that obviously there's not going to be an audience. I think if there was no COVID-19, if there was no coronavirus issue, I think this would just be a regular like singles match, which would have been fucking a clinic in terms of what they can each do. Yeah, one's gonna. Well, they're both. I'm assuming the Undertaker is gonna. It's safe to say he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame someday, and AJ Styles is pretty much certified living legend, man. Like he's
yeah. This is quite a clash of the titans, and I guess with the whole COVID-19 thing, they have to be creative. So adversity breeds creativity and invention.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. That's so that doesn't just go for wrestling. That goes for all of us. I think.
We all have to adapt.
Yeah, you have to adapt. You have to be creative, and you have to be resourceful. And that's not just for wrestling and WrestleMania, man. This is just our lives right now, which is just kind of like hopeful.
Absolutely, this is a time of rebirth for a lot of people. It's a good catalyst for a new future. Let's take it as such.
Some self-reflection.
Yeah, stuck indoors, might as well. You got the time.
Yeah. So yeah, Undertaker is going to lose this boneyard match, to AJ Styles.
Do you think they'll finally put him in a grave and it'll stick?
I mean, maybe. I have no idea. I'm looking at the word and it's confusing. What the fuck is a boneyard match?
Maybe they just have literal.
Is graveyard like too, not PC, or I don't know what's going on there.
Maybe they want a graveyard full of bones. They can use them to hit each other.
Maybe. Who knows, man? Who knows?
So I know we already know the results to this because we just watched it. But Roman Reigns versus Goldberg for the Universal Championship.
So going back to that, Shayna Baszler just defeated Becky Lynch in our 2K19 simulation, which I'm very happy about.
Interesting.
Everything's falling in line.
You called that one.
Yeah. So the next simulation is Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn, so we'll just let that play out. And the question was, who do I think is going to win the Universal Championship between Goldberg and Roman Reigns? So this is interesting because there's been... So one of the things I mentioned is that I'm more of a casual fan now. So what that means is I'm not as invested in terms of I want to know what happens behind the scenes, or I don't want to know... I'm not invested in what happens... or why things are happening. I'll just watch the product for what it is, and then I'll kind of just enjoy that and just be a mark about it. I'll just enjoy whatever it is that they produce, and if I like it, I'll continue to watch it, and if I don't, then I just don't watch it. I'm not as passionately invested in the WWE anymore as to kind of care about the dirt sheets. So the dirt sheets, I don't know if you know what do you know what dirt sheets are?
I do not. What the hell is the dirt sheet?
So dirt sheets are like kind of like reports and kind of this is very challenging for me as well, because I have to explain what is a dirt sheet. This is cool. I like this challenge. So dirt sheets kind of like reports that come out about things that have happened maybe backstage or between, if there's like legit heat, which is a term that gets thrown around. It means like, if two wrestlers behind the scenes really don't like each other, then, these dirt sheets will report on that, or there's currently an issue between, so and so and so and so, or if there was a specific like a creative change that occurred and we don't know why. Like on screen it might be that we've written off Andrade like in the tag team match as having an injury, but the actual reason might be something else. Maybe he's been suspended, or maybe so the dirt sheets are kind of there to kind of pry into the behind the curtain situation, I guess is the best way to kind of explain it. So they're like these news sites almost.
Okay, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, it seems, and that's the curtain is getting thinner and thinner as time goes on, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, these dirt sheets have been around for a very long time. There's a very famous, well, not very famous, but there's people that have made their careers off of just these dirt sheets. Like a Dave Meltzer or, PW Torch. There's all these other, sources for information, and a lot of the times I just don't think they're reliable, and I've just gotten to a point where I don't really care anymore. I just want to watch what they're presenting.
Yeah, just have fun.
I find myself as being more of a casual fan, and I'm totally fine with that because I'm more invested in like New Japan or AEW. and I just kind of float towards what I find interesting at the time. So advertised this Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, but some of the dirt sheets are reporting that due to Roman Reigns' previous, his underlying health condition. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but
I'm not.
he recently
Consider
came
me out
out.
the loop entirely.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so he earlier in his life had leukemia.
Okay.
So this kind of came up again more recently in the past few years, where he was the Universal Champion and he kind of had to relinquish his title and kind of come out and speak as Joe, which is his real name, on Raw, and kind of say that it's kind of come up again and he's gonna do some rehabbing in terms of trying to fight this leukemia.
Okay.
So, he went, he kind of did his kind of rehab, did what he had to do. The whole wrestling world was really supportive in terms of other promotions, putting out positive messages for him and, pulling for him. And he did. He kind of, he pulled through and he was able to come back and wrestle again, and he wrestled his first match back at WrestleMania, and, I'm assuming that was a great, personal feeling for him to kind of come back to doing, what he loves. But, there's been some stuff on the dirt sheets which I've kind of tried to ignore about his situation in terms of being in this match, because he would be kind of I don't know is it immunocompromised?
Autoimmune compromised, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I don't know what the situation is with this match. Up until Raw last night, they were still advertising it, but as things are going on, I don't know what the situation is. Again, I'm avoiding all spoilers. I don't really want to know. I just want to watch the product for what it is.
So it could change easily, you say?
Yeah, there could be a change of situation here, in which case, I don't know, does Goldberg keep the championship? I don't know. But
who do you think they would have to replace or keep them on standby?
I have no idea. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that, isn't already involved in a match that could come in and kind of replace Roman Reigns and take the title away from Goldberg. Because I think that's what the plan was. The plan originally, before the whole world, the shit hit the fan, was to have kind of Roman Reigns defeat Goldberg at WrestleMania. And Roman Reigns is the kind of babyface they're kind of pushing down your throat, where they're afraid that people might boo him. And the only way for them to not boo him is to not boo... What am I saying? I'm just waiting for the announcer to finish her bullshit so I can construct my thoughts. Just give me a second. She's introducing Daniel Bryan.
Introducing the champion.
And here we have the GOAT.
From Montreal, Quebec, Canada, weighing
She's
in
now
at
introducing Sami Zayn.
212 pounds. He is the Intercontinental Champion, Sami Zayn.
Okay, so, I think if everything was supposed to go ahead as planned, I think the plan was for them to have Roman Reigns beat Goldberg at WrestleMania so that he wouldn't get booed as much as if it was him defeating, say, the Fiend character, which was really popular. So yeah, in that situation, I think Reigns was penciled to go over. And Goldberg obviously is not really doing a long stretch as champion, or he's not come back for a long term kind of deal, I don't think.
You say that not only does Roman Reigns deserve to win, but he should win.
I am not saying that at all, man. Goldberg should be the Universal Champion until he dies.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
You know what I mean? Goldberg's the man. No one can touch this guy. He'll defeat 20,000... Okay, I'm not to start chatting shit. But Goldberg's the guy. He's my guy. You know what I mean? But
He's always been your favorite, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm
so
talking
hyped when he first
logically.
came back.
Yeah, logically, it would make sense for Roman Reigns to win. But obviously, if he's not in the match, I think it would have to be someone else. Or maybe Goldberg retains the title, I don't know. But I am a mark for Goldberg, so if he was to win, you can guarantee that I'm going to be jumping up and down, in isolation.
Would you say you'd be happy either way then, no matter which way it goes? For different reasons.
I wouldn't be disappointed. I wouldn't be disappointed if Goldberg lost the championship, because it's kind of what the expectation is.
Yeah.
if he was somehow to win, I would be jumping up and down with joy. Like, yes, my guy won. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot of criticism, you know, for not being able to carry himself through matches and this, that, and the other in his older age and doing all these moves and shit. But to be fair, when these people on Twitter, when they're 53 and they can lift someone up for a jackhammer, then, you know, by all means, complain. But until then, the internet needs to stop being a bitch.
I mean, that's just true in general.
Yeah.
Now, you ready to move on to the final one of the card?
Yep.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. The WWE Championship, Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. Who is Drew McIntyre?
Question away. Who's Drew McIntyre? Okay, so he was around actually back before when you were kind of watching wrestling. He just wasn't a main event guy.
Okay.
So he might have kind of gone under your radar.
I think so.
Drew McIntyre will be...
back then.
Yeah. Drew McIntyre, if he's able to defeat Brock Lesnar, will become the first Scottish-born world champion.
Oh, that's a big deal. He's my
That's
new
a
guy.
big deal. Yeah. He would also be the first... will also be representing the United Kingdom as the first, you know...
Bloody good show, mate.
What the hell is going on in 2K19? There's some kind of a bug glitch where they're spazzing out all over the place. This is interesting. Let's leave it on. But yeah, Drew McIntyre would become the first wrestler out of the UK to become a world champion on that level. The question is whether or not he can beat Brock Lesnar. I think he can. I think he looks legit. He's a big guy. You know, he was getting a lot of positive momentum. The crowd were behind him, and you know, again, this COVID-19 thing has kind of ruined that moment. So even if he was to beat Lesnar, I don't think it'll be as big of a moment as it could have been in front of, like, I don't know, however many thousands of screaming fans. Drew McIntyre actually won the Royal Rumble this year. Thought I'd mention that.
Oh, fantastic. Actually, yeah, I just thought about that. Like, if they win, there's not going to be any, like, the thousands of screaming fans.
The pageantry, the whole pomp and circumstance is not there.
Confetti,
you know,
and all that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I hope they have something. Like, maybe at least have his family there or something. I don't know.
I think it's going to have to be crucial. I don't know about his family. Again, that seems like it wouldn't be very likely, but you never know.
Yeah. Something to
But there needs to be something that kind of differentiates it from the Raw and SmackDowns we've seen in the past couple of weeks, where there's no one in the crowd and, you know, everything's kind of just hollow, I guess is a good word to go with. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Drew McIntyre win. But you can never bet against Brock Lesnar. You can never bet against Brock Lesnar. This is the guy that killed The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He's defeated everyone from Hulk Hogan to The Rock to The Undertaker at WrestleMania, as I just mentioned. He's beaten AJ Styles. He's beaten Daniel Bryan. He's beaten everyone. He is the beast. He's the conqueror. He's the one to conquer. So
big cheese.
I wouldn't be surprised if Lesnar retained. But it would be very good to see Drew McIntyre win. The only thing, I'll give another prediction. It'll be cool to see, like, McIntyre screwed out of this match, because that would be cool, because then they can kind of like postpone him winning the championship.
That would be interesting. Push it down the line a bit.
Yeah, do it down the line where there's you know, the people are happy to be back into the arenas, like the world's recovered from this huge lifetime defining event, and you know, people are happy to be in, you know, they're extra juiced to be, you know, back into their sports venues and stuff, and kind of have McIntyre win then as like a kind of a collective victory.
That would be a good time. That's what it deserves by the sound of it.
Yeah, I mean, it will be all good and well for him to win the championship here, but it definitely will not have the same impact.
No, absolutely not. So either way, it'll be worth it, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we don't even know what's... Yeah, I don't even know what's happening. Sorry, go on.
So, yeah, Brock Lesnar or Drew McIntyre, who do you think will win at this event? Or, like you said, do you think it'll just be screwed out and then pushed out? Do you think that would be the most likely event?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull something out of left field here, and I'm just gonna say I think the match will end with some kind of a botched finish. Yeah, some kind of you know, something happening that, you know, it's not a clean finish. I don't think either one will win cleanly. There'll be something that happens that puts some doubt into your mind as to, who would truly win this match. I think that's the best way to go about it. Like, to be fair, in my opinion, if I was booking stuff. JassB88 says, I can imagine Drew McIntyre screwed from the WWE title match. Maybe MVP interface. That's brilliant. Yeah, I would go with that. I would, if I was, holding the pencil and writing booking this match, I would definitely go with something like that, because it just seems like a really big waste to have, such a moment kind of wasted with no one there. You know what I mean?
It'd be a good hook for the future.
Yeah, build it. Do a New Japan style thing where New Japan, this is what I like about New Japan, Victor, is that they will go and run a storyline for 2 or 3 years. Obviously there's things going on, but they can always seem to build something out. Like, they're consistently kind of building the story, and they don't kind of sweep things under the rug most of the time. And then when you finally get to Wrestle Kingdom, it feels like this is 3 or 4 years in the making, So I don't think it would hurt Drew McIntyre if they kind of did some kind of a screwball finish, and then kind of waited until this thing passes, and then eventually bring him to challenge Lesnar again. When the circumstances are a bit better, just to get kind of a bigger payoff.
Here is your winner.
Yeah, good way to invest in the future for yourself.
Yeah.
And like you said, give Drew McIntyre the victory he deserves.
Yeah. So, I'm going to go with Lesnar. I want Lesnar to retain now. Yeah, I think that's what should happen.
And everyone's happy.
Yeah, I mean, this COVID thing is definitely in Lesnar's favor, I think. Prime example, I'm just reading the chat. Prime example of NJPW storyline, Naito being the top guy of the company. Yeah, so they've got this thing where, Naito's build has been over many years. He was very unpopular in terms of, not unpopular, he was a very good wrestler, but he was basically scheduled to be in the main event of a Wrestle Kingdom, and the fans voted against it. So he became a heel, and he started to hate the fans. And then, obviously, he got really popular, and he became... his kind of momentum kind of skyrocketed, and he became a really big star, and then that kind of led into over a 2-year build of him becoming a main event guy. So there's no harm in long-term storytelling. It's just the art that I think is forgotten these days, with everything being so instant gratification.
Sounds like it's going to be interesting either way. Would you ever want to go into the, sorry to just slightly go off topic, but would you ever want to be in the wrestling business? Actually, maybe, hopefully, write these cards yourself. You seem to have a lot of knowledge, a lot of
I think there's a lot of people that feel like they would love to do it, and I'm one of them. But I think the issue is, I think it's a lot easier, simulating it on 2K19 or writing about it and giving an opinion. But the thing is, this is why it's so toxic at times, because people or fans become toxic because we become jaded. We think we're entitled to certain things, or they should have done this, or if I was doing it, then it would have been and then eventually just becomes complaining, which is kind of why I feel like I've become a casual fan. I don't want to waste time complaining. If I don't like it, I just don't watch it. But to answer that question in another way, I would love to try it. Definitely would love to try it. Again, there's so many components, there's so many moving parts. It's a living organism that people kind of underestimate. You've got to deal with, talent in terms of you've got to keep the talent happy. You've got to keep your bosses happy. You've got to, sometimes you have no idea what's going to sell and what's not going to sell, or what T-shirt's going to sell, or what idea or what gimmick would get over. Or, it's a very complicated process. For fun, I would love to do it. I don't think I don't yet have any knowledge on how to do it on a professional level. You know what I mean? But it would be cool. I would love to kind of get my foot in the door to try something like that, as I'm sure most people would.
Yeah,
but,
it's kind of you need a lot of in-house experience to really get good at it.
Yeah, it's a very unique business model too. There's nothing else I don't think that's similar to it. In terms of managing this, just thinking about it kind of blows my mind. You've got to plan week to week shows. You're traveling between city and city. You've got to work on getting people through the actual gates, making that money. You've got to satisfy the TV audience as well as the TV networks. There's so many people to answer to. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I guess the closest thing would be like MMA or some other kind of combat sport, like boxing. But they don't.
MMA doesn't have to worry about.
There's no story.
Yeah, MMA just puts people in there. They're gonna fight. It could be boring as fuck. It could just be two guys rolling around on the floor, groping each other, and not very exciting stuff. Or it could be like a crazy, TKO finish fight. But either way, they don't have to worry about storytelling in terms of what's next. They just kind of put together the matches, and then whatever happens, happens. But one of the things I'll credit MMA for is they started to, at certain points, do wrestling storytelling better than wrestling,
Interesting. Do you think they could possibly compete in the future, or will they actually try and make it a bit more dramatic, or will they stick with their formula, would you say?
Who will? Sorry,
MMA. Or do you think they'd see the value of trying to play it up a bit, add some drama?
I think it's kind of gone past its peak in terms of its mainstream popularity. Like now, the people that watch it because they're MMA fans. There are casual fans like myself. Like I'll tune into something if there's enough, hype in the marketing machine, and it's kind of like you have to see this fight. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's past its kind of boom period. I think a lot of the original MMA fans came from wrestling fans, like back in like the late 90s, that kind of were like, this is
That's a good point.
This is fake or whatever, and they started kind of switching over to like early days UFC.
But then people have kind of come back around, gone back to WWE and thinking, oh wow, this is
it's
fake
more
to a
fun,
degree,
to be
but
honest.
it's
I
a
would
lot more
much
fun,
rather watch something like from the WWE, because although their matches seem very formulaic and that they're not very distinguished from one another because of the constraints they have to work with, I would still rather watch that than watch a random UFC event from like top to bottom. But that's just me.
Yeah, I guess people are in it for different things. Some people want the drama, the story, the fun aspects of it, and some people are in it for the martial aspects of it. Yeah, exactly.
Like wrestling, WrestleMania in itself is the biggest stage. That's why they call it the grandest stage of them all, because it's all the world's a stage, and this is the biggest theater performance you're going to see.
As a friend of ours said a while ago, it's a pantomime. It's putting on a great show for everyone. Well, very similar.
But I remember who said that, and yeah, no.
Just thought I'd bring that up for you, so you'd enjoy that.
But yeah, do you have any other like weird questions or anything that you've kind of not asked or you thought about asking, or like?
Do you think there's anyone who should be at WrestleMania this year that isn't, for whatever reason?
The people. And the reason?
I mean, that's a fair point.
Thing, okay? Guys, make sure you wash your hands. When you go out, be mindful of other people. Be responsible. When you go to buy your groceries, make sure you know what you're getting beforehand. Be mindful. Like, I don't know what more else. I can't even get my words out.
Do you think they should have postponed WrestleMania, push it down the line a few months?
I don't think Vince would have. I don't know. It maybe cancel it. Maybe I would say that there was more likelihood of them kind of canceling it than postponing it, because like you don't want to post, like it just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't compute.
Yeah. I guess because then it's too close to next year's and it throws off the entire schedule.
Yeah. I suppose so. Yeah.
I know a lot of huge events were cancelled, so it's quite impressive they're going forward with it or just adapting.
This is the thing though, yeah, because knowing the kind of caliber of person that Vince McMahon is, and I'm not saying this because I'm a wrestling fan, just out of, like, I would love for the day for him to actually write a book about his experiences, and his autobiography would be full of gold in terms of advice, in terms of how he's kind of operating in business. This guy built like a $1 billion machine, But yeah, the moment I was kind of like, when I found out that obviously this was happening and they weren't going to do it in Tampa, that's when I kind of was like, okay, so this coronavirus thing is for real, because he is a true showman in the sense that the show must go on. So obviously when he kind of took it more seriously and they kind of decided to do it in a closed set, that's when I kind of was like, okay, this is serious now, because he wouldn't cancel this for the world.
Mm-hmm. This is his big baby.
Yeah, this is his creation, So He doesn't even sneeze. Like he considers, like it's really strange, but just a random thing I remember, like an anecdote about him. Someone saying that he doesn't sneeze because he believes that people that sneeze, it's a sign of a weakness. You know, like you have to be able to control your bodily functions. Like it's really weird mentality.
Yeah.
Really strange way of thinking, but yeah, he's a very unique individual.
Well, you could just choose not to sneeze, but I guess you can put up with anything if you put your
I
mind
don't
to
know.
it.
I would love to. I'm sure he's a very different thinking man than most. But yeah, if anyone should have been at WrestleMania, it should have been the people. Like, I think it's going to be a big change. It's going to be a completely different production. It's going to be the most unique WrestleMania in our lifetimes. I just hope it goes well. I hope it's presented differently.
I'm sure it will be. They'd have to. Otherwise, it's. I don't know if it'll be the best, but I doubt it'll be the worst by a good margin. It'll just
Yeah,
be
I mean,
something
visually it
different,
should
like
look
you said.
different from what they've been doing on Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, we will see. Time will tell. So,
Yeah.
I believe it starts at 10 p.m. GMT, but obviously because we've had our clocks changed recently, can't say for sure. But I know it's 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday and Sunday.
Has it always started at that time? I feel like it used to be later.
Yeah, the thing is, WrestleManias just keep getting longer and longer. I remember back when it was
Oh, yeah.
4 hours, and it was like, oh my god, that's such a long time. But now there's like pre-show, post-show, there's the actual show, and now there's a whole new day to worry about. So, just set the weekend aside for WrestleMania.
Yeah. Is it shorter each day, or is it like two days of 5 hours, or whatever it is?
I think they'll be equal in length, but again, I'm not sure.
Just see how it goes. All right.
So
Then.
it's a whole bowl of It's a whole ball. That's difficult to say. Whole ball.
It is whole ball. Oh yeah.
It's a lot of uncertainty. It's a whole
Yeah.
ball of uncertainty. I don't know, man. I don't know.
It'll be fun. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be fun one way or the other.
It'll be fun. What we'll do is obviously I think everyone's going to be watching it remotely this time, so like there's no get-togethers for WrestleMania this year, which is also strange.
Ah, that's a big shame.
So we'll make a WhatsApp group. We'll put everyone in there, and if people want to leave
Yeah.
because they're not watching it live, then they can do so. But it'll be interesting.
Are we gonna get your reactions afterwards, or during?
We can do that actually next week. How about we do that next week? We'll do a more concise pod stream. This was kind of
Yeah. We can see how close your predictions were.
Yeah, I've kind of put down who I think's gonna win for most of the. Okay, for Boneyard I put AJ. Goldberg and Roman, I'm putting Roman. And the last one we had McIntyre and Lesnar. I think my prediction is not a victory, but Lesnar retains. I'm gonna say that.
Let's hope so.
I don't know
At least
how
if
he'll
they
retain,
play it
but
right.
yeah, he'll retain the championship somehow. So I was gonna say, for next week, should we do a review of how things
Yep, works
actually
for me.
went, and what the presentation was like, and what some of the decisions were? And the other question I actually have that's gonna be answered soon, but it's like for me, it's definitely interesting. Is where do they go from here, in terms of bringing wrestlers in to kind of perform at this performance center? Like I don't know how they're going to be able to afford to pay everyone. Like
I'm sure
They
they
have
have
a-
savings.
they have a
They-
huge.
they-
Oh yeah, they've got savings, but
Yeah. And they have a lot of subscriptions, don't they?
yeah, but
So they're
is it
still-
enough? And on top of that, what's the investment now to continue watching WWE after WrestleMania if there isn't some kind of... They're going to need to build new storylines.
True. So,
So-
there probably will be quite a few hooks. Let's hope.
So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. But yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this strange pod stream during these strange and uncertain times regarding this very strange and unique WrestleMania that we have coming up this weekend. If you guys enjoyed the pod stream, make sure you're here. If we're still here next week, next Wednesday at 3:30, hopefully GMT. Do you have anything you want to plug? Are you doing some Twitch streaming during these uncertain times?
Not at the moment, no. If I do, I'll bring it up next week. Thank you,
Okay.
though, for the opportunity.
Well, you can follow Victor on Twitter anyway at LTButtstrong. You want to spell it out?
I might actually... I'll change it anyway. It'll be the same as my PS4 handle of Sigmar
Okay.
Kane. SIGMARCAIN.
Okay, so is that up and running?
That is up and running, yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna have to give you a follow on there.
Oh, appreciate it. I just want to separate from, as much as I love Lieutenant Butstrong, it's more of a personal thing, close to my heart.
Time to change, is it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Just
Time to
separate
evolve.
between-
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Also-
sorry.
Also, Twitch closed my Lieutenant Butstrong account, so screw that.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Anyway, onwards and upwards to Sigma
Onwards
King.
and upwards to new things.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone. You can catch me on Twitter at MAU2X15. That's Mo2X15, and that's pretty much across all platforms. What else is going on? So I've been playing Super Meat Boy every night at 8 p.m. For about 20 minutes.
Fun.
That's been fun, yeah. It's a fun game. It's a good game to not play for very long. I received my copy of Persona 5.
Hey, how's it look?
It looks amazing. I haven't opened it yet because I want to finish Final Fantasy X first.
That's fair. How's that going?
So I was really excited to get into Persona 5 Royal. Everyone's streaming it. Everyone's talking about it. It's the new hot thing. It's the novelty item, and I'm just kind of like, no, I need to finish my commitment to Final Fantasy X. The DPD guy fucking... There was a hole in the box though. It was very dodgy. It was kind of dodgy looking. I don't want to talk about it on stream, but yeah.
No, that's fair.
I just want to thank
we'll call it
everyone
there.
for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.